Cool.
Oh, just waiting for the button. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Keep the Mic On. As you know, we are here every week in conversation with an amazing artist and product. My name is Simply Sherry. My week is called From Behind the Microphone, where we take the time to get to know the person behind the poet, the persons behind the poems, if or whatever their art is. Now is the time for you to tell your friends, your family, and all of them, as KaNikki would say, that we are now streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube and Facebook Live. If you are listening to us later on Spotify, hey. I am going to kick it to the one and the amazing and awesomeness of Miss Cayenne. She's that way.
What's everybody? What's up? What's up? What's up? I am Miss Cayenne. I'm a poet and I know it. Welcome to tonight's show of Keep the Mic On. My Sunday, my week is the second Sunday of the month where we talk about the passion, the story behind the artists, kind of getting some feedback as to why they do what they do. I'm the one asking all the questions like, but why? And I'm so excited to be a part of this team, but more so importantly, I'm super excited about tonight's show, as you should be, because, you know, every time we come on here, there's so much knowledge being dropped. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it to, y'all like that? Y'all like that? I like that. Okay. I'm going to kick it to, I believe, Girl Genius.
Woot, woot, woot.
Yeah, exactly. Hi. Hey, everyone. I am Girl Genius. Happy to be with you this week. My week is called Let's Talk About the ... Usually books. I am the first week of every month, and I pick artists' brains about product and all things tangible and how you get from point A to point B and all the fun stuff like that. Yes, and again, I am super excited, as I am every week, to be here. We have a phenomenal guest, and I am looking forward to hearing from him. Yes. So I am going to keep it short and sweet. And I'm going to pass it up to this week's host, who is that way. Ha ha.
You did it the right way. You to learn. Oh, see, like which way?
See, I'm never going to get it right.
It's always the opposite of what you think it is. It's crazy.
You're right. Okay, I got it this time.
Unless you're directly above me. This is like the
above or down.
Yeah. I'm going to pass it to this week's host, who is KaNikki J.
Yay! How's everybody doing? Let me just say this before I get started on this week. Everybody who joins us for free, including us, right?
Right.
These platforms are not free. If you would like to help us continue to keep the mic on, below scrolling, you'll see our Cash App. You can put any amount in that and help us to keep the mic on. And if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to tell everybody and like, follow, and subscribe.
Please. Yes.
I am very, very excited for our awesome and amazing feature tonight. If you hear a baby in the background cooing, that is my brand new daughter. She is our not so silent partner. So anytime that we're doing things, if you hear a baby cooing in the background, bam, she's like, I made myself present. So she introduced herself. So that's cool. All right. So our amazing, awesome, and amazing special guest tonight, I'm very excited to bring him on because our history goes back, I think, almost 2 decades now, how we met. I don't think we officially met like in person. But yeah, we'll tell you about how that happened. So I just been, give it up to Facebook, been watching his poetry career just thrive. You know, you can be fans for people on the internet. I'm an internet fan, right? Because we're not in the same place. So I'm going to read you a little bit of the bio and then bring our special guest in. So, developing his creative and performance style of writing since his teenage years, Nick the Poet is continuously growing as a poet, an author, public speaker, and facilitator. With a strong background in performance poetry, Nick pulls from his own life experiences and personal challenges as inspiration for his work. Through advocating for mental health and recognizing the utility of performing arts, I should have got my glasses, Nicholas uses his voice and skills to ignite social impact, change stigmas, and develop deep community. If you would all give it up from wherever you are for our very special guest, Nick George, the poet. How are you? How are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad I'm not the only one with kids in the background because I got 3 of them playing like full on WWE tag team wrestling right now. So as long as y'all don't hear it, I'm good.
We don't hear it. We
Cool.
don't hear it, and it's cool.
Cool.
It's cool. I always say, listen, we're at home, and you gonna get all this family.
Yep. Exactly.
That's what's gonna happen. You're gonna get all this family. So listen, I am going to exit stage left, and I'm gonna let you do a piece for us. I'm gonna give the screen to you momentarily, and I'll be right back.
It is inevitable that at some point in every student's journey, a well-meaning teacher will make the earnest effort to coax greatness by saying, do your best. Contained in that phrase is the effervescent hope that despite the mountains and valleys ahead, lying in wait past the narrows of anxiety and adulthood, this child can gather the skills necessary to do their best. Never mind that their best has yet to be fully defined. Until this point, this student has witnessed enough questions that never satisfy and gotten answers that always pacify, meant to hold the tide, hoist the levees, just wait until that 2:30 bell. Their best at times mirrors this awkward truth that some of us have never seen our best because some of us have never seen our worst. Some of us have had dreams anchored to the halls of academia and the screech of gym sneakers on hardwood. Some of us could only see as far as the water fountain down the hall, never into the starry beyond promised so long ago. Imagine that. Imagine saying, do your best and meaning it. Imagine hearing, do your best and believing it. We aspire to contribute to greatness, but lack the imagination beyond failure. Doing your best becomes a bookmark among these manicured pages, because why even keep reading if we already know how the story ends? Maybe we don't need our best. Maybe our classrooms and places for learning should make spaces for spectacular failure and the lessons within. Maybe C's and D's get applauded and A's are a sin. Maybe we need broken pencils, notebooks torn asunder, incomplete projects. Maybe we need hallways with volume and spills, because doing our best has been statistically producing heightened levels of teenage anxiety and suicide. You never achieve your top speed without some skinned knees. You never hit your top speed without first landing below the trees. We can feel possibilities within our grasp, eons of hope and chance, a finger's whisper away. Maybe this world's change lies in wait amongst the progress report that actually has progress to be made. Let's question our best and the rules that apply. Ask the hard questions with 2 truths and no lie. And to that challenge, that date of mediocrity, we say, looking squarely in its eyes, do your worst. Thank you.
That's awesome. Interesting take on do your best. So I'm imagining you work with kids. I know you got some kids. We know you got the kids.
Yeah, I got these shorties are 8, 6, and 3 going on 30. But I do work with middle and high school age kids primarily.
That's awesome. What's the difference in working with children than it is working with adults?
Than adults? I mean, there's no shortage of jerks worldwide, no matter how old you are. But it's really interesting working with young people as their minds are like still pliable. And while they still like have the nerve to dream things or believe in things or still recognize that they're still figuring themselves out. It's interesting. It's interesting. I prefer it, to be honest. But come Friday, 5 o'clock on Friday, nah, okay, y'all go.
I hear you.
Bye-bye. I'll see you on Monday.
I hear you. So listen, let's unpack your bio a little bit. We definitely got the minimized version of a bio, and I always say that by the time the bio is read, then we've done more stuff, right? So that's usually what happens. Like a person who is an artist, by the time we write the bio, it's something else that we need to add on to it, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about so we know, well, we don't know. You were born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, right?
Yes, sir.
But you're in Lynchburg, right?
I am. I've been in Lynchburg, Virginia for the past 18 years.
18 years. Wow. Okay, well, what brought you to Virginia?
It was a girl.
It was a girl.
But no, I came for school. I started with a degree in journalism, and after reading one book about political bias, I realized that wasn't for me.
Okay.
So I went into counseling and studying human services and development. Got my got 2 bachelor degrees in industrial organizational psychology and human services counseling, and master's in marriage and family. And that was quite a journey. Quite a journey.
Wow. I didn't know you can get a master's degree in marriage and family. Wow. You didn't? Well, hey.
No, I had no clue. I thought I wanted to be like this Joe Clark kind of therapist, and you know, there was something else in store for me.
Wow. That's we have to come back to that the bachelor's in marriage and family. I mean, a master's in marriage. Yes, we're gonna circle around. We're gonna circle back around to that, because we definitely want to talk about. So why did you choose? Because we know that you are a poet and author. You do public speaking. You do facilitating as well. We already know that you work with children. But what made you choose the stage name Nick the Poet?
Wow, I played around with that, and there's a lot of identity that goes into it. For a while, I wanted to be Psy-Kid, like some weird play on psychic and kid, and then and Steven was a thing, and then I started doing graffiti. That's a whole other story. But I figured that I didn't want to try to search for anything more than who I am, honestly. Whenever presenting to the stage, there isn't really any way to communicate who I am than who I am. And I'd like for that to be recognized, that there's no frills here. There's no magic potion. It's Nick George, the poet. That's it.
The poet, right. So imagine you bring poetry to, I mean, when I was just having a conversation, a little business chat up with the co-host here, Miss Cayenne, and I was talking about, no matter what I do, I always bring poetry to it, no matter what, right? So if I'm your keynote speaker, I'm your mistress of ceremony, I'm doing a workshop, whatever, you're gonna get these poems, no matter what, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, although in your name, we know that you are a poet, right? But I mean, that's why I asked that, because no matter what you're doing, they're gonna assume that it's some type of poetry associated with it. And you're okay with that.
They can. But I'm also just a fan of how throughout this life experience, that despite the chaos, there is a rhyme and reason to it. And if we look for it, we can identify the artistry in it. So it may not come through in verse, but hopefully if I am facilitating a certain transition in a corporate leadership, or if I am doing a public speaking engagement, hopefully I can craft it in a way to display some of that inherent artistry that's a part of our life experience, hopefully.
Awesome. Listen, I have to say that nickgeorgethepoet.com is one of the best, well put together websites that I have seen ever, as far as like displaying. It looks, I don't know who did this for you, but this is one of the best websites I have ever seen, because you know how you go to websites, you're clicking, you're trying to find out, what do you do, where do you go, how do you find whatever you're doing, where, you know what I mean, your resources or whatever. Is very well, great photos, very well put together, and letting us know how to work with you. What do you do? We love it. So definitely check it out. Check out the website. Trust me, if you look at this website and you didn't have anything, that you were thinking about or booking Nick George the poet for, you may create something based on the website. It's one of the both well put together. Trust me, and I have sifted through many of artists' website, and I'm like, child, I can't find what I need on your website. I need you to send me some stuff. You know what I mean?
Shout out to web designer extraordinaire LaShonda. She's actually a friend from college and has been a part of my creative journey for years, like almost as long as I've been here in Lynchburg. And she's actually been wanting me to do a website for the longest time, and I didn't have the coins. But she was patient, and it's definitely been an exercise in growth for me. I don't know what to do with a whole lot of attention, but it's something about when you have a community of support around you, kind of empower you and push you in that direction. And she's definitely been a part of my community here, just like personally and professionally. So yeah, LaShonda Brown Delavic, like she's the truth, definitely.
Well, definitely shout out to her. And I don't know, does she do the websites because some people might need some revamping?
I mean, I'll send you the contact.
Definitely. If I had a contact, I'd put it in here, but I'll definitely make sure I drop it in before when this airs. I'll definitely make sure that information is somewhere so people can find, right? All right, so we know that you are a poet, and I think somewhere in your bio you said it read that you do poetry, but also known as spoken word. What's the difference
between poetry and spoken word? I love getting that question. So both of them exist in the same house, right? When you first enter the house, that's when you're meeting poetry. And in the living room, you got music, you got songwriters. In the kitchen, you got hip hop. Spoken word is that meeting area, the pantry before you get to the kitchen. It's where you put just like the lyrics and the emotion and the intent together before you start cooking and going into other art scenes. You need the words, you need the lyricism, you need a sense of poetic expression and lyrical understanding. But they're so closely connected that most people don't recognize the difference. I don't think you can have one without the other. You can't have spoken word without poetry. It's
definitely not.
It's not the same. But there's so much in that defining it becomes a poem in and of itself. And if you are a poet, you've definitely written that poem about spoken word and poetry. But yeah, the relationship between the two, I think, is very close, but it's definitely important to recognize how they inform the other. Absolutely.
Definitely. And I asked that question because a lot of people, when they decide listening to you what type of person you are, right? They decide to give you your own description. So some people say, they do spoken word or they do poetry, just depending on what their thought on poetry and spoken word is as well. So definitely wanted to ask an artist what you thought about that as well. So I was laughing because I saw one of the comments that said I'm from Newark to Lynchburg. So I thought that was kind of funny. Like it was like question mark after that. What made you stay in Virginia?
I can't lie. I think that there was a lot of searching that I was doing at the time. Coming out of high school at 16, there was a lot of identity questions that I had, and I will forever rep Newark as so evidenced. Like I can't get away from it. I'm not going to deny it. I will boost it up as loud as I can. But I needed a space that was different. I needed a space that had space for me to explore different things, to search for other things. I think that journey has ultimately benefited me, just to be able to have space to figure out what I sounded like. It's kind of a context where I've seen it in literature different times, where a certain person leaves home to really discover who they are and find out how much of home is in them. Like I got Newark in me to home, right? As much as anything else. I'm grateful for my time here in Lynchburg, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've had. but the decision to stay has really been more of an exploration into just being still within myself. It's really been kind of a journey to kind of figure out what is it that I actually like without all of the other distractions. What am I into? When everything's comfortable, do I still have a hunger for something else? It's very comfortable in Lynchburg. I can't lie. It's very easy to be comfortable, but for people like me, it's not enough to just be comfortable, right? There's a deeper journey and there's a harder question to ask, and that's kind of what I was in pursuit for. And then meeting my wife and having our kids, we're just like, you know what? We're doing okay. We're doing okay. As for the future, I can't speak to that because we're constantly growing and evolving as people. And, not even speaking professionally, but just like personally and spiritually, like our appetites grow. So, I can't speak to the future, but it's been a beautiful time here. Being able to just be, honestly, to be able to be.
Right. Fantastic. Definitely understand that. How long have you been married?
Ooh, this year has been our 10 years. This is our first
Come
decade.
on, decade.
Yeah, first decade
That's
down.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, who introduced you to poetry?
His name was Mr. Beckworth. And in middle school, he was my guidance counselor. And he asked if I had ever heard of Maya Angelou. And I was like, Angela, what? But that was the beginning. That was like my gateway drug of like someone who used words the way I understood them, like intrinsically. Right? Like certain things that you wouldn't be allowed to do in like formal writing. She was able to do and have it make sense while communicating what she meant to. And it felt like we were like playing a game on her terms. And she's just one of many. Maya Angelou, Sonia Sanchez, Daniel Beatty, and then moving on and upward to not Leroy Jones, Mary Baraka. So many dazzling poets: Nikki Giovanni, Gwendolyn Brooks, Langston Hughes, Claude McKay, like all these OGs that like had such command with words that we just use all the time. Like we honestly take it for granted. And just seeing how they were so free in it made me want to like take my experience and manage it that way in terms of personal expression, but also I guess mental liberation.
I see that you use your own background and your own life experiences for inspiration for your work, right? What else inspires you outside of you?
My kids, my community. I have had a very interesting mental health journey, and I like to peel some of those layers back, but also trying to make the complex plain. Make the hard stuff easier to kind of understand, because we may not all necessarily experience parenthood, for example. We may not all experience that, but that bigness of emotion, I think, is where it's the thing that I want to try to communicate. I want to try to use the language of how expansive the galaxy is down to like this 8-pound thing. Like what? What? So, and that's not to say that I won't have more experiences. I know I will, and I'm excited to have them. And being able to have that make sense through verse.
Yeah, because to find I think the biggest thing that I like about poetry, and especially when you are a performance poet as well, when you're in front of people, right? You're writing the piece. The piece is about you and your experience. And then when you leave the stage and you're talking to the people who listen to the piece, they're like, I went through the same thing, right? So just like relating to it, oh, that's my story, relating to other people, and then having people, when you're performing, and then you see a lot of people do this, right? When they're doing this, right? So they're like in agreement, they feel it, they know this is like part of me, right? So it's also connecting with them, knowing that you're not the only one who went through it.
That part. That's the part. You're not the
Mhm.
only one. And it's
Yep.
incredibly lonely experience thinking that as a teen, feeling like you're the only weirdo with sweat and hair and thoughts and feelings, and no one else gets it and understands it. And that's a big part of the why for me. You
Mhm.
know, being like, I did a show recently, and just for context, my grandfather passed away last year,
Wow.
and there's a complicated family legacy there. And what else am I going to do? I'm gonna write about it.
Mhm.
And I did this poem at this show. No, this is in Lynchburg, by the way. So nobody knows like my family for real, for real.
Right.
And the amount of people that came up afterwards, like, yo, my pop situation is just like that. Or, I remember hearing my folk talking about they like just like that. I'm like, how could you, if not for the poetry? How could we connect if not for the poetry?
Yes. Yes. It's a, an energy
Mm,
um with spoken word because it's only the word, right? Because
right.
like when you are a singer or you play an instrument, like you have the the music to bring people in, right? So
Mhm.
sometimes people are so caught up by the music, they're not listening to the words sometimes. Sometimes you don't get the words later, and so you hear the
Right.
music or something, right? You're feeling the music, but you don't get the words till later. Because
Yeah.
but with spoken word, there's only the word. That's
Hmm.
it, right? So
Hmm.
it's something very unique and amazing about a person that can stand up in front of an audience with just the word in a mic,
Just
right?
words.
It's an amazing type of thing, right? So yeah. So I especially love when black men have a platform for mental health, right? Because there's some type of stigma behind I don't know what it is because I mean you have every other type of health, right?
Yeah.
So and that people don't and then the mental is what uh feeds everything else, right?
Mhm.
So like even if you're focusing on your physical health, your mental health, is the thing that helps you with your physical health, right?
Mhm.
So anytime people say mental health, it's some type of stigma behind that. So what made you choose mental health as a platform?
I think at a certain point, it began to be a question um, that I wasn't really ever satisfied with the answer, right? Sometimes you would experience something or witness something, and people seem to be really satisfied with that's just the way it is. That's just how we do things. That's just what it is. Like, and I find that to be one of the most damaging statements in the English lexicon because that kind of satisfaction with the status quo very rarely leads to any kind of growth. Now, within the Black community, there are things that we just had to make do with as a matter of survival and utilizing what we had to make it work. And shout out to all our ancestors who were part of just making the shit, sorry, making it, my fault, making it work. But
Child, you can curse. Child, you can use curse words. You can curse.
but yeah, just like making it work. But after seeing how that impacted me and impacts current tense, my family and the family of my loved ones and folk around me, it's not enough to just be like, oh well, that's just Uncle so and so, or that's just how they do. Like, no, there's something else going on in there.
Right.
There's resources to get us out of that space, get us out of that hole if we're willing to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we are all evolving in different spaces in time, so maybe we're not as ready as we should be, but we can be more ready. Maybe at 16 we didn't have all the tools, but at 35 you damn well better be about some progress in that way, and not just telling yourself, oh, I'm older so I'm better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I'm going to be on this journey, and if a part of my heart's burden is to help people, I got to know how to do it. I can't just
Mm-hmm.
be jumping in there with all these well intentions and thoughts and prayers and like, oh well, then that's fool, just get a drink of water. Like, no, like there's an actual way to go about doing this. Let me understand it. Let me and
Right.
I'd like to think that that's impacted how I write
Mm-hmm.
and how I perform. because it hits different. It hits different when you know what you're trying to say. It hits different when you have that intentionality behind it. And I don't think it's always fun. No, it's not always fun, because a big part of the work as a poet is doing that work yourself. I think
Yeah.
I don't think you can talk this talk and then do this whole performance on stage and not have that be like real for you. So in my journey into mental health, I had to do a lot of that work myself. A lot of that work myself, and still going. That reminds me, I got to schedule my appointment with my therapist. Like, I got to
come on, therapy. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I need to. I'm glad you said that. I need to schedule an appointment with my therapist. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's a, you know, I don't know. I was talking to my therapist one time, and she said, "Yeah, I got to schedule an appointment with my therapist." I was like, "Come on, the therapist got a therapist." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's definitely,
and so much has changed.
Yeah, something that you said made a lot of sense to me when you said about in understanding. Like, you know, you have the uncle and you be like, well, you know, Uncle Joe, he just like that, right? But then you're saying, but why, right? Nobody's trying to understand. That's the problem. Why are we not trying to understand what's happening? You know that you like, he's just like that.
Yeah.
But why? You know what I'm saying? We as adults, we drop the but why. You know, as kids, we want to know why, right? You know, you can't go such and such. Why? Because I said so. Why? You know what I mean? But as an adult, we learn to accept a lot of things, but no reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
But why? You know what I mean? So we definitely, we definitely need to work on that. You definitely want to, you know, work on yourself first, because once you work on yourself, then that changes your whole world. When your world, when you work on yourself, it changes your whole world.
A lot of those whys don't have easy answers. A lot of those whys come with a lot of baggage. And I think as adults, we start to get aware of that. So we kind of like, But as that, you know, continues throughout the community, it gets harder and harder to know how to navigate those whys. Oh, why? Well, when he was 16, something. Oh, why? Well, the way they used to treat women, da 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 da. And we're not terribly good with those hard conversations, just because of the generational coping mechanisms we've developed along the way. But if it starts with asking the why at some point, I can't see growth being a bad thing. It's a hard thing. It's a painful thing. Oftentimes,
that's great.
I don't see it as being a bad thing.
That's great. That's great. I love that. What as a parent, what from your childhood, what did you say I will absolutely do with my kids from my childhood? And what did you say from your childhood? I will absolutely not do that with my child. Let's talk about generational curses and generational growth. Let's talk about it.
I knew that my kids were going to have some exposure to music. Like, there's no way you going to be my kid and not get all of this earth, wind, and fire in your bones and not know where it came from. Like, it's going down. My parents immigrated from Trinidad and brought with them a love for the arts. I can't explain it. That's what I knew growing up. My grandmother took me to so many plays. My mom got us into so many different community events and activities in the choir at church. My dad was all about us playing some kind of instrument growing up. So I knew that, yeah, I know my kids. And there's so many kids nowadays that don't know, like, actually songs by Whitney Houston, right? Or don't, like, I made the same face, like, really? But no, my kids are gonna know that. My kids are gonna be involved in that. I knew though that I didn't want my kids to, and this might be a losing battle once they get older, but to ever feel like they weren't a priority. Not that my parents ever did that. But you see a lot, you see a lot growing up, and you see other family situations, and No, I don't want my kids to experience that or have that thought enter their mind. Maybe they know, yeah, my parents are tired. Maybe they know, yeah, they on the phone. Maybe, yeah, they on a internet call with poets and platforms. Yeah, you know that we're doing stuff, but never it'd be like, oh, they just never cared or they don't care. They don't have time for anything like that.
Right. That's awesome. Shout out to my auntie Joanne. When I was a child, I was a young child. I was 12 or 13. And we were in the car and her son was talking. I think he was probably like 4 at the time. So we listened to the music, we were jamming, and then he was saying something and she turned the music down and she was like, What'd you say? And then so he said whatever. And then so she turned the music back up. She answered him, turned the music back up, and then we were dancing again. And he said something else and she turned the music back down. I was like, What'd you say? And I was like, wow. The fact that you have a voice that is worthy of enough to pause.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That for me, I was like, wow, that was something that I'm like, I don't know if I had it. The fact that, a lot of times children aren't treated like humans. They're treated like children, air quotes, right? So what you're saying is not that important. But the fact that you're 4 and your mom's like, everybody shut up. My 4-year-old's talking. You know what I'm saying? What do you want to, you know what I mean? I'm sure she wasn't even thinking about that. But growing up in that type of environment, being heard, as a child also helps form a voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're beautiful. So you shout out your grandmother. Is that Miss Inez George?
Yes, it TI is.
See, I found your grandmama. See what I'm saying? I found your grandmama. So I know that you did a original piece, Revenge of the Snap, paying homage to your grandmother on a TEDx. How'd you get on the TEDx Charlottesville? How'd that happen? People always want to know, how did these things happen?
I'm gonna be totally honest with you. So, and for context for y'all who didn't know this before, but I met KaNikki while I was interning in DC. And while I was out there, I was excited because they got open mics like they do back home in Jersey. But coming down here to Virginia, open mics don't mean the same thing.
Right.
I'm waiting like, hey, yo, when the bar's coming out, and like nobody had no poems, no song, like it was strict guitars. Not there's anything wrong with that, but I was like, yo, come on. So I got notification that they had an open mic in Charlottesville. I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go check it out. Right. I wrote something, and turns out this open mic once again was not like the open mics that I knew. It was actually just like an open call for presenters. This area doesn't have as strong a poetry or spoken word representation as they do back home. So I said, let me shoot the shot. And I'd written that piece because of the I guess frustration is a fair enough word. The frustration I felt with being, and I'm not trying to hate on anybody, but I was feeling antagonistic when I wrote it. This contentment, right, at open mics to just like, like I'm over here bearing my soul, and like no, like if you feel it, like act like you feel it, right? And I did that. I didn't think they were going to pick me for like the actual event itself, but they did. They said I was one of the individuals in there, so that was probably one of the biggest performances I've had it's like up until that time, because of the sheer number of people that were in the room. But getting them to actually like clap on beat and not just give me these Love Jones snaps, like, come on now, this ain't a movie. Like, let's go. Let's get it. I think
I'm talking. I'm muted. Yeah, I muted myself, and I'm saying I muted myself while myself is muted, right? So yeah, I didn't mean to mute myself. So yeah, it is trying to get people to clap on beat.
Yeah,
it's very very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Yeah,
but yeah, congratulations for that. That's amazing. I peeped that in the bio, and I was like, yeah, we definitely got to see you. Got to love a person who puts their grandmother's name in the bio. You understand what I'm saying? Like, my grandmother, got to give homage to my grandmother. It is a beautiful thing. Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when they my family came to America, it was a new chance, and my grandmother was a big part of that new chapter in my family's legacy, you know. And growing up until her passing, she was like a third parent. So, you know,
I love it.
I'm directly formed by her and her influence.
I love that. Like, yeah, the grandmothers are like a third parent. A lot of times, you know, people kind of miss out on that. So I definitely feel that about my grandmother as well. Shout out to Ruth Ola May. That's what I'm saying. Yes, that's amazing. So listen, so it has been a shift. Okay, so you were performing, and then the pandemic came. What did you do? How did you pivot during the pandemic?
Oh boy. So the pandemic shifted my focus in a lot of ways. Um, I think prior to, I was kind of in this rut of creating because that's what would get attention, creating because that's where I might get a paycheck, you know, just kind of having it be very work oriented. And that's not why I got into writing in the first place. Um, I didn't know how to understand my my obvious ability to desire. And I think once everything had to like arrive at a halt, it gave me enough time to really pause and say, like, no, I don't want to be a content creating machine. I don't want to engage with this thing that saved my life just for clicks and likes and cutting the check. Like, I want to actually feel it. I want to be intentional with it. And yes, I want you to cut the check, but I don't want to just do it without thinking about who I am and how I'm engaging in it that way. Um, it's a continuous journey, I think, because at the same time, writing doesn't come the way it used to. And I hope that doesn't break anybody's heart. But as you get older, you know, the world of priorities expands, right? And you have to shift a lot of different things around. It's not really so much that things are less of a priority as much as it's just constantly shifting. Today, my priority is resting, right? Tomorrow, my priority is going to be making sure that my office is in order, and so on and so forth. And it's going to be shifting. It doesn't remove anything, but I have to be able to rotate it. And a lot of adulthood is learning how to rotate those priorities. Writing is on that list. Some days, the most writing I'll get done is on the toilet in the morning, and that'll be it.
Mm-hmm.
And just making it work.
Right.
Other days, you know, I might have to stop shopping in Target, get it out, get those quick lines out, and get back to looking for rice.
Right.
You know.
Yep. You got to get it in where it fits.
Right. Get in where you fit in.
What did you learn about yourself during the pandemic?
How much of a community person I am. How much geared towards the community I am. I'm grateful for platforms like this, for Keep the Mic On. I'm grateful for all of these opportunities to promote people who are doing good work. But that's not the goal. That's not the point. Right? Like, there's too many kids out here that don't know anything about Derek Weston Brown or Jasmine Vans or Sekou Andrews, right? Like, and these are current day artists, and they don't know how to access that in terms of like an additional tool to process their own healing or to make sense of the world around them. That's the point. That's the goal, is to build them up. It's not to get, hey, look at me, you know, and I'll take it. but that's supposed to help elevate the work, not the person.
I get that. All right, you said a whole word. It's always. a word. They called us a master class for a reason. It's always listen. You don't even try. You don't even try. When you drop the word, you be like, yeah, you don't even be trying. That's amazing. So yeah, I mean, I think definitely art took a big hit during the pandemic, right? And then so after you came outside again.
Yeah.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go outside? Art and artistic wise. What did you do?
The first piece I did, oh shoot, I might have it on my phone. It was for shucks, I forget her name. Not Sandra Bland, but she was a part of that poem. Breonna Taylor. It was a piece for Breonna Taylor, and I remember feeling an urgency with it, and then that got followed up with a poem for Ahmaud Arbery.
Wow.
And it was a lot of emotion. Locally, there was a riot near a local bar that I don't think anybody really got hurt, but there was a police presence there, and the city asked me to make a statement. To this day, I'm still a little baffled by that. Like how did I get the call for that? And I tried to, say some things and make sense of it. But truly the biggest way that made sense to me was through poetry. This brother was just trying to go for a run, and like 2 miles he made it.
Yeah.
And this framing of Black people constantly trying to be on the run while also trying to run away from this fury. It couldn't come out and I was able to do that with his case and with Breonna Taylor's case, and just being fed up about a lot. Ironically, I did it at a church function too, so
wow,
that was interesting.
Yeah, I was writing about that too because it was interesting. We talk about being Black and seeing all the stuff happening, in a pandemic and being Black during all of these things that was going on, was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah, it definitely was a lot. So yeah, not to bring y'all down, but
no,
yeah.
I don't think there's a real down to it. I think the point where it becomes down is when we get so good at ignoring it, and we get good at.
I think that's the fact that we were home. That's the one, right?
Yeah.
It put a lot of focus and attention. Like we didn't have all the other things, right? So it put a lot of attention on what was really happening at the time,
right?
And everybody knew. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where everybody knew. Everybody had the same attention on those things. So yeah, you can't make a change if you don't know what's going on too.
Right.
So
right.
Definitely. So yeah, my mind just my mind was back there. My mind just drew a blank. Yeah, because it's heavy. You know what I mean? It's a heavy situation. Yeah, at the time doing my poet laureate term, someone, I was called out by some of the media saying, why isn't our poet laureate talking about, Black Lives Matter or something, right? And I was like, child, I'm over here. I'm Black. I'm better.
Yeah.
And I'm over here trying to talk to my then 17-year-old about what happened. She's like, what's, you know what I mean? Like she's trying to wrap her mind around, I thought this was what happened in history. Why is this happening now? Right. So I'm trying to, I don't know. So I'm trying to like help her out. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I don't know. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to work that out in my life and be Black at the same time,
Right.
So yeah, it's not just about the art. It's about the life, right?
Right.
And the life of the artist and that type of thing. So that's basically what was going on with me at that time. So, as far as poetry is concerned, well, let me ask you this. Do you have a day job? Do you do anything else other than this art thing that you're doing?
So I have I founded a nonprofit here in the area called The Listening, and since 2013 we've been about this work, trying to use these performing arts to make a difference. One of the things that said a lot is that we don't do this to entertain you. It's too frequent that the performing arts gets put in this box of entertainment when it can be used for so much more. Our mission is to engage, change, and save lives with the performing arts through community engagement and youth programming. Last week, we just wrapped our Freedom School program, which is a part of our partnership with the Children's Defense Fund. There's over 100 Freedom School sites throughout the country. This is part of a long legacy that goes back to 1964. But we brought that program as a part of our programming to work with young people, specifically middle and high school age kids, for 6 weeks during the summer. Throughout the rest of the year, the Listening hosts open mic sessions, performance showcase events, community conversations and discussions, different projects, and so on and so forth. And I been serving for the past year as the artist in residence at the local Academy Center of the Arts. That's been interesting. The inaugural, I should add that.
That's what I'm saying. How did that happen? Did you like propose that to them, or did they propose it to you?
A little of both. A little of both. I think it was invited by just a conversation that I had with the executive director, and he presented the idea to me, and I was actively in a space of trying to figure out like what is the next step, what is the next level, and how do we make this a thing to where poetry has a more pronounced presence in our community. There's no shortage of creativity, but channeling that creativity through word and verse and rhyme and syntax and iambic pentameter and the things that like that takes work to make it look easy. That part. But once again, this is another example of a community that's supportive. They were able to kick that programming off, the Artist in Residence program. And, I've had the opportunity to meet with a lot of dope artists, but also do some programming on the side as a part of that with the Academy Center of the Arts. I'm also a teacher, teaching full-time or local middle school. In addition to the family and consumer sciences, I've had a couple of innovation classes. So the school I work at is named after Paul Laurence Dunbar, the godfather of the Harlem Renaissance.
Wow.
But there's a history there that connects the local school district to the civil rights movement and more. And I wanted to be able to take the time and do that and kind of guide these kids through a greater appreciation of the namesake of their school. There's a lot of, I got to go to school today. But, hopefully through walking through it together, there's a bit more appreciation of history and the people that have literally died for us to learn.
You do a lot. You do a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. When people ask you, what do you do for a living? What do you say?
I'll be out here. I'm out here.
That's hilarious because it's like so much, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think the job of a host is?
What are you hosting?
What do you any host? What's the job of a host?
Make people feel comfortable, welcome, safe, open, present. Yeah. The host is guiding the ship.
Yes, definitely.
They're guiding the ship. They're responsible for a lot. It's not just a matter of just telling you what's happening next. There's a certain energy and a certain vibe that comes with that. Not everybody can do it.
They can't. They can't. They can't. That's why I always ask that, because people who facilitate, host, and these things, the show is carried by that person. So sometimes, even if the rest of the show is good, you're like, oh, here comes the host. It's
Yeah, yeah.
like being able to transition in there, not knowing what the job is. That's why I always ask that, so people can know what it is. Because every artist can host. You know what I mean? They can't.
I've been at those events. And it's hard. It's hard, and there's a sensitivity to it too. It's not always about keeping a crowd hype. It's just about maintaining a certain energy.
Exactly. The energy.
The open mic a little bit ago, the theme was How I Got Over. That's inspired by Aretha Franklin's song, and also the same song title by The Roots, How I Got Over. And so we paused and we asked the audience, like, how do you get through your hard stuff? So the next poet that came through had one of them joints, like hard joints. People was crying in the crowd. The host is not supposed to be up like, oh, moving right along. Like, no, there's something happening here. There's the point of what we're doing is happening right now. And to skip past this just to keep the show moving, it's challenging the community that could be built in this moment. And that's a sensitivity to the air that isn't really paid attention to enough if all you're doing is entertaining the people, and it's not
right. Yeah, because a lot of people don't take this art to heart.
Facts
that y'all can quote me on that one. That's what I'm saying. I'm quoting on that. So I have to ask you about getting started in poetry. What was your first poetry feature?
Oh boy.
Featured. I am now the featured performer, spotlight performer, something. You don't remember?
No, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember if this qualifies. I wrote a poem called The Black Enigma. And it was in middle school. And I remember, I could probably find it somewhere.
You can find it? Wow.
No, it's in the basement somewhere. But the question was kind of looking at stereotypes and trying to figure things out in that way. And the school yearbook wanted to put it in the yearbook. And I remember the principal was like, hey, well, why'd you write it this way? How about if you just change the words around? And I was offended. I was like, hell no, bro. That's not, I wrote it the way I wrote it for a reason. And he was like, well, nah, just like look at it this way. Like grammatically, you're supposed to put the apostrophe. Like, no, bro, put it this way. Like, no, we're not doing that. And I was so mad. And they ended up printing it. I think I ended up making those changes and they put it in the school yearbook. But I was so mad and so hurt.
Wow.
I was like, I didn't know I could feel that kind of fury towards an adult.
Yeah. Sometimes one word can change the meaning of everything.
Yeah.
One word. You take that one word out, it changes the meaning of everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely get that.
I didn't know if that's what you meant by feature. Because
but that's great because you that was a feature. So that was the first time your work was spotlighted to people, I guess. Brought out to people. So yeah, definitely. I don't know. I think my feature would be an Easter speech at you know what I'm saying? At Mount Olive A&B Zion Church. You know what I'm saying? That was gonna be my first feature. Definitely in performance. So definitely, yes. So it's poetry. I take that whole statement back. Let me start this. Poetry has given me definitely connections to you, connections to all of my co-hosts here, a husband, a baby, plenty of poetry, what I call poetry vacations, right? What is poetry giving you?
A voice, a reason.
Nice.
A pulse. Yeah.
Nice.
And without risking the romanticization of it, it's a tool, kind of like an adjustment on some binoculars. It's helping me see the thing. It's not the thing itself. It's helping me see the thing.
Wow.
I've been blessed to engage with a lot of beautiful people and a lot of beautiful creatives whose worldview and perspective are as beautiful as they are. And whatever they call Christ or God, the way that they're able to see them is dazzling. And whether they use music to connect to Allah, or their guitar to Elohim, or whatever it is that they're using, like poetry helps me see this omni
Wow.
the omni of it all, because that's where it makes sense.
Yeah, that's so poetic and so spiritually answered. So poetically, spiritually answered. Definitely. Let's talk about these hats in your background. Why so many hats, yo? I see those hats in the background.
So I'm a new member of the Chrome Dome community. I don't know if you remember, but like when I was in DC, I had the baby locks, and I the joints was long. Like I had locks, and a couple of winters ago, I made the decision to cut them off. It was time. It was time for me to make that move. But since I did that, I'm like, all right, cool. So what's gonna be on my head? All right, we're gonna get back at it. I'm not in the fitted phase of life, really. But yeah, man, I got some.
I see. Oh wow. Okay, all the hats. Okay. Listen, it wasn't all the way in the camera view. We had more hats than we thought we had. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Tell us 5 songs or artists that's on your playlist.
Oh man.
We got to know about you outside of you. We got to know.
5 artists.
5 artists or songs that's on your playlist.
All right. I'm just gonna pull it up. Yeah, it's not gonna be hard at all. Okay. I'm going through a period of transition right now, so I'm going to include a playlist I've been using for that. Nice. Tierra Whack, Eric Clapton, Paris Jones, Common, and Busta Rhymes.
Hey, what a different variety of everything in there. I'm not surprised though. I'm not surprised. How can people support you?
Cut the check.
Okay, wait, let me say this. First, tell us financially how people can support you, and then tell us, we don't have any money. Nick George the poet, how can we support you?
I'd love to help lead workshops with local schools. So if you're connected with a school that has a budget to be able to bring folk in, I'd love to be a part of that. As well as, different institutions. I've led workshops with higher education, within the corporate community, nonprofit communities, just along the subject of storytelling. Believe it or not, we utilize storytelling and many of the elements in our everyday lives professionally. So yeah, spread the word about your boy. But outside of that, cut the check. But I think bigger than that, like giving space for poets, I think just helping all of us helps me, to be in a space where that art form is regarded and revered and respected goes a long way. Yeah.
Gotcha. Understood. Shout out an organization or person or people who booked you for something and hosted you well.
Wow. Shout out to TEDx Charlottesville. Shout out to Academy Center of the Arts. Shout out to the American Psychology Association. Shout out to Tony Cam. Shout out to David Jenkins. May he rest in peace. As the listening was getting started, he was the executive director at the time of the Academy Center of the Arts. At the time, it was the Academy of Fine Arts, and he took a shot on this weird kid from Newark and helped elevate the platform. So yeah,
Nice.
shout out to my church, Hill City Community Church, that lets me touch the mic every now and then and talk my talk. Yeah.
Yes.
Yo, shout out to the South Orange Public Library for those open mics back in the day.
Hey.
Cut my teeth on them joints, man.
Nice. All right. Shout out yourself. What are you proud of that you have accomplished?
Shout out to 35-year-old Nick for growing into the guy that 16-year-old Nick didn't know was possible.
Nice. Love it. Because a lot of times
anymore, buddy. You made
a lot of times we don't shout out ourselves. We do not. So my mama is the person that when anything happens, she's the first person I call. And I talk to my mom like this. I'll be like, girl, let me tell you what happened. That's how I talk to my mama, right?
Oh, Lord.
I tell her she's number one. She's my number one go-to person that I tell things to first. Who are your people? Shout them out.
Oh, my wife. Easy. We in undergrad used to like tag team open mics together. So she is definitely a poet in her own right. It gets hard when you get older and you kind of like you see all these other things that you have to do and become in order to like provide.
Right.
But she's never let me forget that part of me. My siblings, my homeboy Chris, man's been one of my closest friends from what feels like from jump. My homeboy David, we used to hit these ciphers in Newark on a Broad and Market, and even if the cat who was supposed to bring the boombox didn't bring it or didn't get the batteries, like we would still be out there just getting it. Yeah, man. The homies, we call ourselves the Fellowship of the Ring because we all put a ring on it.
That's awesome. I love that. I love it. Y'all are the bomb. I love that. All right, I'm going to ask you to, hit us with another piece, and then I'm going to ask anybody who has any questions to drop them in the chat on YouTube or Facebook, and then we'll bring in my co-host back, and then we'll ask you some more questions. So I'm going to give the screen to you one more time.
Listen very carefully. Wake from your slumber, because if you have not heard us coming yet, you might mistake that sound of stampede for thunder. Listen, it sounds like an act of God wrapped in weathered skin and leather-bound manifestos. This be that revolution you've been waiting for but didn't know you'd be paying for. And I'm not throwing away my shot, so you'd best keep your eyes on the shot clock and pray this thing goes into overtime. 10, he's starting to write. Right now, that little boy with glasses that the whole class ignores, with dreams as big as all outside, the next in a lineage of athletes and game changers, stretching, reaching, grasping for a hold of clouds and scripting his way to more. And he's writing like Hogwarts just invited him to a slumber party. The rustle of college lined paper sounding like phoenix wings. 9. She's starting to dance again, moving because she's finally understanding that her body is a box Pandora was afraid to open, and no man, woman, or legislature will ever violate her again. She moves limbs like wind moves leaves, so leave behind whatever you thought she was doing. She's not doing this for you, but finding salvation in pirouettes and tootsie rolls. She could jerk if she wanna, twerk if she wanna, but you could bet that she'll be what she wanna, cause she wanna. 8. The stage is shaking now. And Willie Shakespeare wishes he could steal these bars. These are stories you're listening to, each line standing tall before the curtain call, pages of a script of a life you used to ignore. 7. God said, let there be light. And each time he sings, God smiles again and again and again, giving a knowing grin to the posse of angels who are jealous, standing behind him, saying, ew, that boy good. 6. They'll say you only have 2 choices, forgetting about the brimstone and that heat rock in the number 2 holster. 5. Black Lives Matter. 4. Listen, just because you didn't know about it doesn't mean it's not happening. There is a healing coming around, and it's about time to open the jail cells. Give your followers something real to like. You can be great in and of yourself. Your age is not an excuse. Your race is not an excuse. There are lies being called truth and liars wanting to define what great is, betting that you would probably stay silent. 3. Whether you dance or sing or speak or write it, there is a fire somewhere waiting for you to light it. Maybe that spark is in you or a light you've yet to meet. Just listen closely. You might even hear the heat too. This is where art takes a whole new meaning, where our greatness is defined not by electric officials or degrees from institutes. We take back the curated displays off the pedestal just for a second or two. Recognize that you were created in the image of something this world cannot conceive. Can you believe that all this time we were waiting on you? We were just waiting for something dope to listen to. We were just waiting and wanting something real, like flesh with healed bruises and lips that spoke life, and a love supreme with eyes that saw a future we were all a part of, and voices that said something worth listening to. We were waiting for you to say something, but we got tired. And now it's our turn to invite you to say something great. 1.
Wow, that was amazing. Amazing. I was finger snapping and clapping and in the background.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Hello. Oh, okay. That wasn't me. I wasn't on. I was listening to the whole interview. I appreciate how diversified you are in everything you do. In a perfect world, what would you see you doing in about say 4 or 5 years?
I'm having a hard time seeing past this week.
Right.
4 or 5 years. Let's see. In 4 or 5 years, my youngest will be 8.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have been able to visit Trinidad or Nigeria.
Yeah.
Or Disney World. In 4 or 5 years, we will be living in our own house and no longer renting. In 4 or 5 years, I will be paid appropriately for working with young people and empowering them to kill shit.
I like that.
Sounds like
and maybe 20 pounds lighter, give or take.
Hilarious.
I'm just going to be quiet.
I understand that sentiment.
I'm gonna shut myself down on that question.
Nah, it gets real after 25. I don't know what happened.
Please. Trust me, I know.
Mm.
I had another question that was and it came to me and then it left, and so I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let my brain do what it's doing and stop and let one of my co-hosts ask. And if you are watching and you have a question for Nick, feel free to drop it in the chat. We will be more than happy to ask.
I agree with Simply Sherry. I was just really amazed at all the things that you do, but your groundedness, sounds like very grounded in those things. It doesn't come across as flighty. It just comes across as very intentional and very targeted. And I'm like, man, I need to spend some time, because I feel very much so many things on my plate, but how to make sure that I'm intentional about what I'm doing. That came across in the interview. So I really appreciate just listening and absorbing. My question, well, two things I want to say. So one, I was laughing at the question about your first feature, and I was with you. I was like, oh, I probably wouldn't have used that as my answer. I would think about the first feature. So of course, KaNikki's answer, I had a story, so I'm gonna share the story. My first time that I remember was a speech in church. I think it was Christmas. I may have shared this already, but it was Christmas. The letters, it's acrostic basically. And I think I did share this. I forgot my words. I got so nervous. I got blank.
No.
Oh my gosh. But let me tell you, this is how I knew, in retrospect, this is how I knew I was made for the stage, because I just went ahead and did testimony service. I want to thank and praise God for being here, who's the head of my life, and all that kind of crap. And it was nothing to do with the seed for Christmas, but it was a little quiet, and then there was like a cricket clap, you know what I'm saying? But that was my first time that I recall being on the stage and having to figure it out, right? Having to figure something out, because stuff still leave my head today, even when I'm doing a poem. So you got to figure it out. So thanks for making me think about it from a different angle. My question for you, Nick, is you talked about, which I found powerful, about, the work, yes, we're poets. Yes, there's an element of entertainment, but really talking about the work of what you do, the intention, like you said, even in the moment of hosting, when what you really want to happen is happening, how do you elevate the work and not the person? So my question, I began to think about that from the angle, what would you say to a person or to anyone listening about how to balance the dance between the work, which is the outcome that you really want, whether that for me or for you, maybe it's that healing is taking place or growth or whatever the intention is of your artistry, balancing that with the fact that I gotta eat, I need you to cut the check, right? And then the obligation of it, because if this is what your life's work is, I know one of the things that comes up for artists often is, I don't want to do what I love, and now it becomes an obligation, becomes work. It's hard to really reconcile that. But how do you reconcile those different points in this work?
Stay humble, stay learning, and stay real. I think you need to have anybody who is engaged in anything that feeds their soul, there has to be a humility to it. Because when you're engaged in any kind of soul work, the minute you start thinking you're on top of the mountain, it's when something knocks you off that bitch and you got to start all the way over again. Right? That is not fun. And I think having a sense of humility and kind of where you fit in the global conversation makes a bigger difference, whether it's hosting, whether it's performing, whether it's writing. Like I don't know all, and that leads you to being able to stay learning, because there are, oh man, one of my favorite poets, Gemini, a lineage of poets behind us and one to come, and we gotta stay reading. One of the why I'm so passionate about the Listening's Freedom School program, or just CDF Freedom School programs in particular. We are not the last writers, and we got to be able to train these youngins in what they do, but they won't be able to do the best they can do if they don't know what's been done. So we've got to be in a place of learning, and not just learning from our particular craft. I did a piece earlier this year in February commemorating Josephine Baker. So as she was a dancer, I got together with a local dancer, Theodore Coates, amazing dancer, and was able to glean a lot of not just my writing, but my performance style off of his dancing style, and vice versa. And there was this beautiful connection of artistry. Let me not say I don't know how to dance, because I will wobble with the best of them. But I think being able to stay learning new things about what's going on in the world around you informs this soul work that you're engaged in. Yeah. And then also being real. We gotta, come on now, real recognize real. And people want more of that. People want genuine. People want authentic. And what's real is these babies need food in their belly. So listen, help me help you. I'll go hard if you cut the check. Why are we playing games? This art is just up for grabs. There's a space for that. Don't get that twisted. There's a space for that, because once again, if you're doing soul work and your heart is a part of it, it's not always about the check.
No.
But knowing yourself, having that strong knowledge of self, you know how to do that work of saying, all right, this is for the love, this is for community or whatever. But I know what y'all's annual budget is. Y'all not finna play me. So I'm gonna be me and cut the check respectfully.
Right. Respectfully. I get it. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. I could also appreciate, I think that's a constant as an artist, as a entrepreneur or artpreneur. It's important to constantly, I think, discuss that, within yourself. Where are you? That balance, making sure that you're trying your best to stay there and to carry that out. Another thing you indicated that I really appreciated was, which it just released me, because it's so much guilt sometimes as a writer. Oh, I'm not writing, 1,000 poems. But there are different as life goes on, your priorities shift, and you have to be okay with what that is. I say it every time I say I'm a poet and I know it, and that sounds, it's a corny little rhyme and I get a chuckle, but really what I'm saying is, even if I am facilitating, hosting, or writing, or spitting, or even if I am just having a conversation with a young person about, you can do this, there's greatness in you. To me, that's what poeting is about. And so, but it looks different at different times. And I think you talked about that as far as today, I'm focused on my office being clear. Well, that's what you said. That's not what I'm doing.
Yeah, right.
And that is a part of the work, for example, but I had listening to that and hearing you say that, it kind of released me from from the false obligations that we place on ourselves to, you have to be doing this in order for you to consider yourself the whatever, ... But all of that is a part of it. Transitioning when necessary, prioritizing as necessary. And again, life happens and you're growing, responsibilities change. We have a new baby in that house, that those kind of things, it changes. And so you shift, you pivot, and you still are being in that process. You're still being whoever you are. So that was liberating for me. So thanks again for that. Enjoyed the interview.
Oh, girl genius.
I'm going to hold on. I'm going to unmute myself. Waiting for we have a fire station nearby, so I'm waiting for the fire truck to go away. I have a couple of comments, and then I'll ask the last question if no one else has anything for tonight. And the last question is the hardest question of the whole night, but I want to reiterate a couple of things because I was taking notes. If you saw me with the pen in my hand, I literally was taking notes. I think this is one of those shows that everybody, but especially me, is going to go back and listen to, because there's so many really good takeaways from this interview. One, as a semi-professional multitasker, legit, that's my, like, I'm a semi-professional multitasker, who juggles a lot of things. I totally understand, and I totally feel where you are, and I also enjoyed listening to you talk about how this sort of works in your world. So I think there's a lot of really good things that are gonna come back and remind me to go back and listen to this again. So that's one. Two, I also echo what both of my other co-hosts have said, and I also liked this conversation we've had at the end, where you were talking about basically going back and sort of taking I hate using this word, but it is what it is, like this cross or multidiscipline approach. Like if you want to know, write a poem about, Josephine Baker, hang out with a dancer for a while, like I really appreciate that, because I don't think enough people do that. And they probably should. I know we're writers, but you got to actually have some experience to write about to make it a fuller experience for everybody else.
Right.
So I will put those notes there. I'll pin those notes, and I'll ask you the very last question, which is the hardest question of the entire evening. Always the hardest question. You ready?
Well, no, I'm not. No, wait, hold on. Oh. Okay.
It's like it's like the Jeopardy. It's like Final Jeopardy.
Right.
Music playing in the background and all the suspenseful stuff. And no, you can't phone a friend. No, I'm kidding. So the hardest question you will be asked all evening is this: now that you've been on the show, and I can run through the segments again. Who do you think would make a good guest on the show? Whose brain would you like to see us pick? And don't limit yourself to one person. Well, they're like, I only have to pick one. No. You can throw a couple of names out there.
Dead or alive?
Oh, no, in real life.
Oh,
we legitimately have on the show.
Okay. Okay, I wasn't sure.
If we can get the dead person, I want Tupac.
So God,
if we can get the dead, we can get a dead person. Let me get Tupac on it.
Right. No, I was about to say, if it was that,
God, that would be an interview for days.
I would have loved to do James Baldwin, but since we're within our context,
but in real life, like who would you like to see on the show? We always call this a masterclass, so we figure we ask the people we interview, who do you want to hear from?
A few people. We just did a show with Levi the Poet.
Yes, I know who that is.
He's a great writer and emoter, if that's a word. Rudy Francisco. I don't know if he's been a guest yet.
We've been trying.
Not yet. He's on the list. Not yet.
We've been trying.
Yeah.
We've tried.
I love Jasmine Mans. I really do. She's a fellow Newarkian.
Yeah.
So any chance to just hear her just talk her shit, like, yeah.
We have had a Newark person on here.
Who's this?
We had Ronnie on here. She's Newark.
Really?
Yeah. She was
Mia.
Not even about a month ago.
Mia X.
Oh, yeah.
Mia X. She is definitely a part of that community. Before I left home, and I still follow and keep up with her, but she had what was it called? I think Hug the Block. She had a campaign called Hug the Block. Oh my God! Like if there was a super team of poets, she would be on it. I would love to hear her speak more about just her perspective and worldview. In Black Ice.
That would be a good one.
Black Ice. Woo.
That would be really good. That would be a fantastic. That has to be a round table because we
think Black Ice was on the list.
Yes, but that would
Yeah,
that would have to be a round table because we'd have to fight over that one.
Definitely.
You know, just round table that. Just put it on the round table. Let's just.
I will move him to the round table list. So we have a couple different things going. We have a list of like people we really want on the show. Like we literally have an Excel spreadsheet. Not kidding. So there's an Excel spreadsheet that has like everybody we want on the show. We're still working through the original list. 3 years in, and we're still working through the original list because we know a lot of people, and we were like, I want to talk this person, this person, this person. So we've been working through this list, and then we have like we do a 5th week roundtable. As a matter of fact, we have one next week, and
announce it.
That's the one to segue into it. But also we have what we call a fight list.
Oh, shoot.
Which is the fight list is everybody wants this one particular person, and if we cannot work them into a round table, we will fight over them.
Wow.
or
one of us will just sneak the interview and the person is here.
Yeah, I've gotten stuck a couple times.
That's happened a couple times.
I've gotten stuck a couple times. Yeah.
Oh wow.
All right. So the first thing we want to do, everyone in the room, please give a huge round of applause for our guest this evening, Nick, the poet.
Hey.
We appreciate you spending your time with us here this evening. As alluded to moments ago, next Sunday is our 5th week roundtable, and we are welcoming back one of our favorite people, one of our favorite poets, artists, community activists, former guest C. Thomas. So we are looking forward to seeing them again. Very excited about this for next week.
This is one of our rare repeats from like way back when we didn't know we were doing.
Yes,
and they've done so much, and they've done so much since way back when. In this short period of time, I'm telling you, the list of accomplishments is ridiculous. I'm excited about this.
So we're really excited to see them back again next week. So as I always say, stay safe, wash your hands. We will be back next week at 7 p.m. Streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. If you are listening to us on Spotify, hey, you want to see our faces?
I'm dropping more episodes as we go. I got a couple weeks to drop next week. So this will be great.
So you can find us there and listen to some of our older episodes. I will see everyone again, and we will all see y'all again next week. Bye.
Bye.